Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out evil spirits and to heal every disease and sickness.
The Bible contains remarkable stories of miracles and divine interventions. Moses parted the sea. Peter healed a man lame from his mother's womb. Jesus drove demons out of people and raised others from the dead. But are these types of events still happening today?
We too have a beam of divine light and guidance that God has put within the heart of every man. And it's one of the greatest proofs that there is a God.
More amazing supernatural things are happening than we realize.
This is Divine Intervention, the interview show that features intriguing people who've experienced the hand of God in amazing ways. Divine Intervention was created and produced with the purpose of encouraging believers, spiritual seekers, and skeptics alike that Jesus is alive and is still performing miracles and working in the world today.
I believe in miracles.
Here's your host, Daniel Fazina.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Divine Intervention Radio. I'm your host, Daniel Fazina, and I'm so excited to be with you, so privileged and honored that you would take time out of your busy schedule to spend with me. And I know today's guest is not only going to be entertaining and lively, but also inspirational. Before I get to our esteemed guest, I would like to remind you that you can find any of the episodes of Divine Intervention that you may have missed on divineinterventionradio.com. You can also check us out on YouTube, Divine Intervention Radio, there as well. And Facebook, facebook.com/Divine Intervention Radio. Well, friends, today I have the privilege of having a friend of mine on the show, and you may have heard of him if you are at all into conservative politics. His name is Alfonzo Rachel. He also goes by the name Zo, and his website is bronzeserpentmedia.com, and he is an author and a conservative evangelist. What he does is he creates video commentaries like the Zo Loft, his place for chuckle therapy, where he observes the absurdity of liberalism, and he also uses music to rock the gospel with his rock band 20 Pound Sledge. And he conducts a lively yet laid-back Bible study where he invites people to trip out on the mind-blowing Word of God in the ZOpium Den. He is going to be sharing his testimony and what he is all about as well. And it's my pleasure to welcome my friend Alfonzo Rachel right now on Divine Intervention Radio.
Zo, welcome to Divine Intervention Radio. You are on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Righto, boss. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. I was very excited to finally get you on the show. You and I met, probably almost 8 or 9 years ago at, I think it was at a CPAC way back when. And I was very privileged to get to know you a little bit, introduced by our mutual friend, Victoria Jackson. And you've done a lot in your career, from music production to video production, and you've got your book out now, A Solid Right Cross, that we're definitely going to get to. But before we get into all the cool stuff you're doing, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Who is Alfonzo Rachel, and how did you come to know Jesus in the first place?
Well, I guess I became known to folks as the bro next door with an opinion. I was doing these political commentaries back on MySpace, man.
What?
And and I started getting a following then, doing these conservative-oriented commentaries, and I moved it over to YouTube, and they started going viral. And how that led me to, and I was actually a conservative before I became a Christian. So how that happened was, if I could back up to one, I'm a musician. I'm the drummer for 20 Pound Sledge, but I was. In doing music, and I'm in California, man. I'm raised in the whole left coast, public school liberal narrative, man. I was destined to be a liberal, so but I would notice that with my bandmates, because the music industry tends to be very liberal dominated. My so-called liberal tolerant musician friends weren't really that, because I found myself questioning the liberal narrative, and doing that, could get you cussed out, So I was like, well, maybe I'm not a liberal. What is it with this conservatism that I probably might want to explore? And this was like back in the late '90s, and it just kind of started to grow. The conservatism in me, just kind of like started to grow, and I took to it And then,
what was it about liberalism that you questioned, and what was it about conservatism that drew you or interested you in the first place?
the first word I would go to is it's selfish.
Okay.
And then from there, it's self-righteous. You know, when I'm looking at liberalism, it always seemed to be like there was this whole fairness narrative. And I'm like, okay, well, what's fair to you? You know, it seems like you want everything to be fair, but it's like, what is the standard of fairness? Because what's fair to you and then we take it a step further, because this person would say, well, that's not fair. And then the next person says, that's not fair. And the other thing was, when I would ask, well, why are you a Democrat? And they never really gave me the answer of why they're a Democrat. The only thing that they would tell me is why they hate Republicans. And make a bunch of accusations. You know, because I'm like listening to the things that they're saying, and I'm like, okay, I'm not really seeing where Republicans are doing that. And, you know, and I'm like, do you even know any Republicans?
That's a good question.
Have you ever even met one? Because I remember, man, like when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I remember the first Republican I ever met. And we lived in the hood, man. And there was this guy, you know, he moved into the hood, big, burly, you know, white guy, right? And he was like a former wrestler. You know, he used to, you know, wrestle with like some of the greats and stuff like that. They called him, his stage name was Killer Clark. But I think he was working as a civil engineer, right? So he moved into the hood and took to us, treated me like I was his son. He had a huge crush on my mom, you know, and I'm like, and not only that, his only son was gay. So, and I'm like, okay, this guy's not racist. He's not sexist. He's not a homophobe. He doesn't agree with his son's lifestyle, but he didn't disown him, as far as I know. I think his son more so disowned him. It was more the other way around.
Wow.
You know, but, you know, looking at all that, I was like, okay, well, I've met a Republican, and the first impression I got was this guy's none of these things that you guys are trying to say they are. He was generous. He wasn't some all about money. You know, he was a well-off guy, but, you know, he didn't flaunt it around and all that sort of stuff. And like I said, he was very generous to us. So I'm listening to these accusations that these people would make, and I'm like, this is slander. And then I would later come to find out that the name of Satan actually means the accuser.
Right.
And I'm like, that's all Democrats got. When you get down to it, man, that's all they got. It's just a bunch of accusations to make people hate the other side, and by default will trust the Democrats. That's always been their method.
Wow. That's pretty intense there. So your political, I guess, awareness started at 8 years old? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that seed was planted back then, because, you know, he was around for like a few years, and, you know, this was about the time when like Reagan was running. You know, he talked about Reagan, and he talked about the difference between these things. And, you know, long story short, he had passed away, and I'm still in California, you know, and the liberal narrative was from there was, you know, the greater influence. But that seed was planted, though, man, and like I said, I would come back and I would just start questioning it, and that would get you into some trouble.
Yeah, I noticed that most of the black people I talk to tend to lean left, and it's kind of, I don't know exactly why that is, but when I go to like conservative events and stuff, I don't see many black faces or dark faces even, and that kind of bothers me a little bit. And sometimes I ask my friends, and a lot of these people are well-meaning, they're great, they're Christians, they're believers, but when it comes to voting, you know, they will support the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party, unfortunately, supports abortion, which is a huge red flag for me, and hopefully for any Christian, and a lot of other things that I just don't think are good. But you know what? Every time I see that, I have to remember that Jesus, when he brought his 12 disciples together, he had people from every spectrum. I mean, he had doctors, he had revolutionaries, and he had tax collectors. You know, the revolutionaries and the tax collectors didn't get along very well. I'm sure they had some interesting table discussions, but they were from different sides of the aisle, so to speak. And it blows my mind that he was able to bring all these people together as true, sincere believers. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the things that for conservatives to be able to promote the narrative, that's a model that they need to go by. Like a lot with conservatives, sometimes we're too individualistic to our own peril, and we do kind of need to understand that, it does take a team. We don't need to be a herd. It's not about being a herd. I mean, unless even though it's kind of a good idea because we are the sheep of the Lord's flock, and I think our pride gets in the way of that. We don't like the idea of being sheep. Conservatives like to think of themselves more of like a pack of wolves. We're thinking strength, and we're thinking, and this kind of individualism that adds to the pack. And we think about those things. We don't like to think of ourselves as sheep. I like the way Alan West put it. Alan West even himself, he reminds us that I wouldn't want to be a pride of lions led by a sheep. I would rather be a flock of sheep led by a lion.
Interesting. I like that analogy.
And basically in Christ, that's what we are.
Right.
But a lot of times, conservatives, because they don't see the strength element in that, and they don't see the independence and the individualism of it, they kind of get away from that. And it's like, guys, we need a standard, and Christ is that standard. A lot of times we want to think of ourselves as Reagan Republicans or Goldwater Republicans or Reagan conservatives and stuff like that. It's like, that's all well and good, but these are fallible human beings.
Right.
I'm a Christian conservative. I'm a conservative in the order of Christ, an infallible man. If I'm going to base my conservatism on anybody, it's going to be him. It's just like you said, he's that guy who can bring people to the table, and and we're all knuckleheaded human beings. We're gonna goof up.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I wonder. I think back and I look at the table and I wonder how like Simon the Zealot and Levi the tax collector got along, and yet they're all the Lord's disciples. So it's just. Mm-hmm. And whenever I get frustrated with the left, that's what I think. I'm like, okay, these are God's people too. Maybe they're a little misguided. Maybe I'm misguided. None of us are perfect, but we got to try and become more conformed to the image of God through Christ.
Sure.
Friend, you're listening to Divine Intervention Radio. I'm your host, Daniel Fazina, and we're speaking with my good friend, Alfonzo Rachel. And his book is called A Solid Right Cross, Biblical Boxing and Conservative Counterpunching Against Leftist Loons and Godless Goons. It's quite a funny book. Interesting read, too. Do check it out. We're going to put a link to it up on divineinterventionradio.com, and you can also find it on bronzeserpentmedia.com. But, Zo, getting back to your story, I kind of interrupted you, I'm sorry, but how did you actually come to know Jesus? You said you were doing political commentary first, and you were a conservative first. But how did the Lord get a hold of you?
Well, I wanted to make a science fiction story. I was inspired by a TV show back in the day, Battlestar Galactica. Right?
Oh, I love that one.
Battlestar Galactica. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to make a story that was, it was inspired by that. And in doing so, I wanted to bring in the account of the biblical flood. So. Now, I wasn't a Bible believer at the time. I just wanted to use the story. I just saw the Bible as a book of like stories on morals and all that sort of stuff. So, I started reading about Noah, and long story short, the more I read and the more I researched to try to, make, all these, things plausible in my story, the more fascinated I got, and the more real it got. And I was like, man, I'm paying, if this stuff is really hitting me the way that it is, then it's not fair that I wouldn't give Jesus the benefit of the doubt of who he is. So that's when I started opening up to Jesus. It wasn't really that though that had my come to Jesus moment. I'm like doing different jobs, and it's like I'm at a low point in my life, and I'm like, my ego is just getting busted down here. It's like whatever I'm trying to do, I'm doing it wrong. And it was at a time I was like working in construction, and I was doing some demolition work, and I had the sledgehammer in my hand. And it's like, which kind of also is how I got the name 20-pound sledge for, it wasn't a 20-pound sledge I was using, it was a 10-pound sledge, but 20-pound sledge just sounded better. So, that ended up kind of being an inspiration for my band, because it's like, man, I need to bust down this wall that is my ego, and I need to get over myself. And I think I need this Jesus guy to help me out. And when I started to realize that I was more, because I'm hurting people. I had people who believe in me and stuff like that, whether it's my wife or my martial arts instructor who basically gave me his school, right? Like, yeah, you've been a great student. And even when we started, he even told me, he says, look, man, I can teach you the martial arts, but it's not going to mean anything to you unless you have Christ. I didn't want to hear that.
Wow.
I'm like, he told me, it's like, look, man, I just want to learn. I want to learn how to, kick butt, and I want to look good doing it. Okay, that's what I want to know. And but he told me that from the get go. And and like I said, eventually he handed me over because I reckon I was a diligent student. And but that was like a horrible business move because I had no business skills. I had no marketing skills, to keep the school going, and it ended up just costing a lot of money. And that turned out into a falling out and stuff like that. And, and this happened on with different people who just believe in me. And it's like I'm more of an expense than an asset. And that was just crushing me.
Sure.
Like, dude, I don't want to be a liability to people. I want to be useful. I want to be a useful person. It's breaking my heart that I'm not useful. And that's when I just cracked up, man. I was like, Jesus, let's, come on, man, take rule of my life, please. And like my wife is like calling, and she came to Christ before we were both not in Christ. She came to Christ before I did, and basically almost kind of like dragged me in kicking and screaming. And but that just came to the point where it's like, now I'm just like I'm kicking and screaming for Jesus rather than kicking and screaming against him.
So what was that that time like when you actually invited him into your life? How did things change for you? What was that day or that moment like, if you remember it?
It was bittersweet, in taking the Lord into my heart, man. It's like, it's not like an explosive, life-changing moment at the time. It's like, I guess it's kind of like why it's called being born again. You got to learn how to walk all over again.
Sure.
It's not like your life just instantly gets better. You got to grow in it.
Sure.
And becoming a Christian, it's not like, oh wow, everything is so magic and wonderful now. A lot of times your situation can get worse.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that you know now that you have a high priest and you have a king who gave us his promise in blood that eternally life is going to be awesome. That's why the Word of God says, endure in faith until the end. But if he's telling you to endure in faith, that means that things can get really crappy. And you're just going to have to hang on. And it's like, you just got to keep on holding on to the grip of the Lord and pray for his strength, to give you the power to keep on fighting every day.
Right.
And, but in the time that I was in, I needed that strength to just keep on fighting. It's like work was, this and that. I'm trying to make it as an entertainer. And, when you have a career goal, whether it's, a doctor or a lawyer, sometimes not all doctors make it. Doctors, people get their PhD and they don't know how to run a business.
Yeah, it's tough.
You're surprised, that there's people with PhDs, that don't make it in the medical world or even, attorneys and stuff like that. Your backup plan is a good work ethic. You just got to be prepared to work.
Right.
So if you can't make it as an entrepreneur, you better be able to make it as an employee, so you can pay your rent.
Mm-hmm.
And, but my career passion is to make it as an entertainer. So in trying to do that, it's a lot of stress about money and stuff like that. My wife and I really didn't really stress so much about money, but it catches up with people.
Sure.
But while I was doing my videos, I started doing my videos on MySpace. People started donating, and that was like to do these things. The donations I was getting was more money than I was making than any job that I had done. So I kept on doing it, not just because the people were donating, but because I was trying to do it as a musician, because music is a powerful medium, man.
Yes, it is.
The left has been using music to screw with the minds of the culture for years, and it works. So I'm like, well, how about a counter narrative to this? Let's get some music out there. Why aren't conservatives doing this? But since I couldn't find musicians to do that with me, I just started talking into a camera, and it started picking up traction on MySpace and went viral on YouTube. Started making a little bit of money from people donating, and PJTV caught on to it. And they contacted me and wanted to bring me aboard, and that's how I got started with ZOnation.
That is awesome. Friend, again, you're listening to Divine Intervention Radio. I'm your host, Daniel Fazina, and we are visiting with our special guest, Alfonzo Rachel. He's a political commentator and an author and a musician, and you can find him at bronzeserpentmedia.com, bronzeserpentmedia.com. And so as you are working your way and doing political commentary and stuff like that, obviously you came to Jesus and you're a Christian, but you're very involved in politics and culture, of course. Why do you think it's important for Christians to be involved, one, in the culture, and 2 in politics?
As Christians, the importance is, the instruction of being salt and light. We're supposed to get out there and as that salt. Salt is a preservative. We as Christians, we're supposed to understand that. We're supposed to preserve this republic long enough, to tell people the truth so the Lord can have his harvest. We got to preserve this republic. We have to be a nation that's free to acknowledge God for who he says he is. We don't want to lose that. We lose that, man, we lose everything. God is the author of liberty. We're so liberty oriented. We want liberty. We love liberty. And it's like, yeah, but liberty according to what? What do you think liberty is? Because some people think that liberty is the right to take the liberty from other people. That's what we call slavery. Some people think that liberty is the right to have an abortion, to deny another human being their God-given right. Some people think that's what liberty is. It's like we need a standard. We need to understand what true liberty is, and that's in Christ. So, and if we don't have that, bro, we can turn into a third world country.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be that salt to preserve this republic. And salt is tasty. It's like it makes things delicious. So we have to be able to use that salt to create ways that inspire people. Say, man, this I don't know what it is about you and what it is about your work, man, but man, I want what you got. I'm craving this. I want that peace. I want that. What do you call it? What do you call it? Shalom? Okay, I want some of that. I want some of that shalom stuff, So we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to be that light that, that doesn't blind people. As the Bible says, the devil masquerades as an angel of light. And this light, these blinds people.
Interesting.
It puts that camera flash green dot in front of your face the whole time where you can't see what you're doing. And before you know it, you're walking into hell with your eyes wide open.
Wow.
We're supposed to be that light that shows people the way. Be a lamp unto their feet. We're supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
So, that's our instruction, man. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And we have to do that in the culture. We have to find ways to do it. And the most effective ways that it is seen is the things that we're not doing. That's why the Lord says, hey, man, the children of the light, God bless them. I love my children of the light and stuff like that, man, but they don't get it. They don't know how to sell it like the children of the age do. It's like, this is what Jesus is telling us. The story about the manager who was doing the owner dirty. He was making these bad sales and stuff like that, and the owner cut him some slack because the manager went and made some deals and stuff like that.
That's right.
And the owner actually commended him, right?
Yep.
And the Lord sums that up by saying the children of the light don't know how to sell it, but the children of the age do. And we need to learn how to do it. And what do children age use? They're using media. They're using entertainment. They're using comedy. They're using movies and music and stuff like that. That's what they've been doing. That's why the culture's all screwed up now, because they pump their messages through that. Why aren't Christian conservatives doing the same thing? They always put their money and they invest their hopes in another politician. They're just as bad as the Obama bots. They think a politician is going to fix everything. And it's like, no, it's not the politician's job to fix everything. Their job is to represent us and maintain the laws that we have that respect our God-given rights. That's their job. It's up to us in the culture to make sure that we're consenting to that governance. We're governed by our consent, and people more and more are not consenting to conservative governance. They're more and more becoming prejudiced to it, and we're not doing our job in the culture to change that.
Interesting. Wow, some interesting food for thought there, and man, we're going to get more insights from our friend Alfonzo Rachel right after the break. Stay with us on Divine Intervention Radio. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more from Daniel Pazina and Divine Intervention right after this.
I believe in miracles.
Hi, I'm Kevin McCullough. You may know me from Fox News Television or talk radio. I talk a lot about things that affect people's lives on a regular basis. And one of the things I've always wondered if people woke up wondering each morning is, could I work for myself? Could I find a business that would allow me to use the skills I have to pursue revenue that I need so that I can build a vision that I have? How would you like to be your own boss with no commute, no alarm clock, no employees or politics or compromises or discrimination? None of that educational requirement, but something positive that actually impacts people's lives. That's the opportunity of Ambit, an energy business that you can not only own now for less than $500, but make lots of money with. Call for your start today at 205-55-AMBIT. That's 205-55-AMBIT, or online at freepowernow.com.
Hey, this is Daniel Fazina of Divine Intervention Radio. The Bible contains some incredible stories of miracles and divine interventions. Jesus calmed a raging storm, healed paralytics, and even raised the dead. But are these types of events still happening today? The answer to this question, as you will see from reading my book, Divine Intervention, 50 True Stories of God's Miracles Today, is an emphatic yes. Contained within the book is a collection of amazing true stories that attest to this fact. You will read the astonishing first-hand accounts of people who have been healed of paralysis, terminal cancer, and tumors through prayer. You will see the love of God powerfully transform the life of an Islamic terrorist. You will witness the liberation of the demon-possessed, the resurrection of the dead, and much more. Prepare to be awed and inspired as you experience divine intervention. More information about Divine Intervention, 50 True Stories of God's Miracles Today can be found at www.divineinterventionradio.com or by calling 800-247-4784. That's 1-800-247-4784. Divine Intervention welcomes the support of Zo Associates, Certified Public Accountants. Zo Associates, Certified Public Accountants is a family-owned and operated Christian business serving their clients with quality accounting services for over 40 years, offering full-service accounting for any type of business, large or small, in any state of the union. Zo Associates, Certified Public Accountants, 12 Oak Street, number 5, West Hampton Beach, New York, 11978. Phone 631-288-3334. That's 631-288-3334. Times are tough, not getting easier, but there's an opportunity that could make a significant change in your financial situation. People are paying too much for home utilities, and everybody has them. Help friends and family save money and get paid for it. No obligation. You don't even have to talk to anyone unless you want to. Just listen to a 3-minute recorded message. Call now, 715-GET-CASH. That's 715-GET-CASH. Listen, decide, and you could be on your way to a better tomorrow. 715-438-2274. That's 715-GET-CASH.
Hey folks, this is W, aka John Morgan, and you're listening to Divine Intervention Radio with Daniel Fazina.
The time is gonna get lifted. This ain't a gonna get twisted. Ride this high with the sound wave elevator. Vibrations of the soul creator. With gusto from the stereo. Come on, we rise to coast. And coast to coast. We turn it up and let it burn it up. Drink the jazz up. Get your hands up and celebrate the light of love. We rise to coast. From coast to coast. We turn it up and let it burn it up. Drink the jazz up. Get your hands up. Raise your mind on a good time with the most high. Yeah, not at the party like you been chose. You feel the power from where I flow.
Welcome back to Divine Intervention Radio. I'm your host, Daniel Fazina, divineinterventionradio.com. And we are speaking with my good friend Alfonzo Rachel. We just came back from break, and we heard his song Divine Battery from his band 20 Pound Sledge. Alfonzo has a book out. It's called A Solid Right Cross, Biblical Boxing and Conservative Counterpunching Against Leftist Loons and Godless Goons. You can find it on his website, bronzeserpentmedia.com, and we'll put a link up to it on divineinterventionradio.com as well. Alfonzo, Zo Rachel, welcome back.
Yes, sir.
All right. So before the break, we were talking about some of the things you've been involved in and political commentating, things like that. But you're also, in addition to being a musician, a political commentator, and an author, you're also an actor as well. My gosh, what a Renaissance man you are. You got a lot going on. The film you were recently co-starring in with Dean Cain is called Gosnell. Can you tell us about that and how that role came to you and why you decided to take it?
Sure. And when I say I'm an actor, I reluctantly came to that. And until Nick Searcy was finally like, stop it, you're an actor. You're an actor, okay? I was doing the PJ, when I was with PJ TV, and the Gosnell story broke, it was taken off like in 2013. I had done my commentaries on it, and Nick Searcy and I had become friends like a little bit before that. He saw my videos, And when they put this movie together, I figured, he was comfortable enough with my on-camera personality for my commentaries and said, I think you could actually act. I had done, a couple of cameo appearances, in some stuff before, but Nick was like, yeah, I think you could pull this off. And you already obviously have an interest, in the story as it is, and you're pro-life. And so I didn't even audition. They just called me up. I was on tour with my band, actually. I was with 20 Pound Sledge, and they asked me, they said, dude, can you just cancel your dates?
Wow.
And I'm like, are you serious? Yeah, dude, you have to do this movie. You have to. And I'm like, wow. I was like, well, thank you, God. I really want to play some rock and roll, but, if there's an opportunity for us to, make this salvo against abortion, hey, let's do that medium too.
Okay. And for anyone who's not familiar with the story of Gosnell or who he is, can you give a brief synopsis of it?
Gosnell is an abortion facilitator. If you call him abortion doctor, I don't call somebody like that a doctor. He was an abortion facilitator who was allowed to do what he was doing by the state for within 17 years. They ignored him. The health department ignored him. Police. Maybe because the police they didn't know about it. The media wouldn't touch it, and for 30 years, man, the things that he was doing with his practice towards women, and of course, aborting children. And this isn't just aborting children. What he was doing was he was birthing them, alive. Kids are already alive, but I guess in an abortion, you're actually supposed to kill the baby before you start, tearing them away from the womb, but he was birthing them alive and then killing them.
Oh my gosh.
So, but he got, the reason why they caught on to him was because his staff was dealing drugs. And his staff was administering medications that they weren't licensed to do. They had no credentials to do that. It was like he taught them how to do it. And even they were performing abortion.
Oh my gosh.
So when the drug trafficking caught up with him, that's when authorities went and raided his clinic. And that's when they started to find all the body bags. And so he's got trash bags all around his clinic, all over the place. It's a slaughterhouse, literally. And they're looking in the bags and like, dude, these are babies. So that right there is what led to his conviction.
Wow, that's crazy. And to think about, in some states, a lot of this stuff is legal. I mean, killing babies, that's what Planned Parenthood does. That's what abortion clinics do, and I think this topic is so hot right now in our media and our culture. There's a real battle going on, but thankfully we have people like you and the Gosnell film, and people like Abby Johnson with her new Unplanned film that's coming out soon. There's a real shift, and there's a real movement of pro-lifers, and I'm for the first time in a long time, I'm actually hopeful that we're going to make some traction in this and get this heinous abortion thing not only illegal, but to make it unthinkable.
Yeah, it takes that, and it takes that culture move. Like, you doing shows like this, and then featuring things that people are using artistically, to reach the culture. We need stuff like this, man. We're in a deficit of it, and we need more of it.
So tell me about the actual process of making the film. I always ask Christian entertainers, especially if they're in the film industry, were there any God moments or divine interventions in the course of making the film, maybe on set or during post-production, pre-production, whatever it is, but was God in this film, and if so, how?
I would definitely say that God is definitely in the film. I have, cast members, crew members, came in that were pro-choice, so to speak, or really didn't think about it one way or the other. And they see when they got a glimpse of where this stuff leads, it changes them. And I have had people come and give me testimonies about their own experience, with abortion and stuff like that, and how they've been convicted. And so, even when you see stuff like that, that's even happening while the movie is being made, then it gives you that hope that, well, when people actually see the final product, it's going to do some work. And we know that because the backlash that we got from people not wanting the movie to come out. That when people don't want the movie to come out, this is effective because they know it's going to change some people. So between a judge trying to sue to keep the movie from coming out because they don't like the way that they're being represented in the movie, to having trouble finding distribution for it, things like that. Proof of concept was already made when they raised the money for it. In a short amount of time, they raised like $2 million. So we know that there were people interested in seeing the movie. But even when they were doing that, they had crowdfunder platforms that didn't want them to do their campaign on their site. So even right there, it's like, okay, we know that we're on to something good here. So
Before the break, you were talking about how we need to be salt and light. You talk about how salt is a preservative, but it's also tasty. And one other quality that's amazing about salt is that it's also an irritant, right?
That's right.
So I think you're hitting on that, being salty. You don't have to try to, make people mad. You just try and be salty and be, the salt of Christ, and you'll get some backlash, as you probably experienced firsthand. Friend, you're listening to Divine Intervention Radio, and I'm your host, Daniel Fazina. We're visiting with my friend Alfonzo Rachel, and he is an actor and a political commentator, an author, a martial artist. He's got so much going on. He's a musician. His band is called 20 Pound Sledge. And incidentally, I wonder, how did you come up with the name 20 Pound Sledge anyway?
Oh, like I said, I was working in construction, and I was doing some demolition work. They needed a wall torn down, and I was using a 10-pound sledge to do it. And this was at a time I was like, I was at a low point in my life. I hadn't, come to the Lord and stuff like that. And not that working construction was a low point in my life. I'm just saying, it's like, whatever it is that I'm trying to do is not working, and I don't have peace. I just do not have this inner peace. And so, I was thinking about, I had the sledgehammer in my head, and I narrowed it down to this simple thing. It's my ego.
Yeah,
I have a huge ego, and I got to smash this ego down, man. I got this wall that's keeping me from getting out there and doing what I got to do is in my way. So I went with the sledge angle, and I just changed it to 20-pound sledge because I think it sounds better. And plus, that music's heavy, man. It's heavy music. So, but the thing is, when it comes to smashing down your own ego, that's a heavy job as it is.
Yes, it is.
It's like, it's about picking this thing up. For some reason, moving your ego out of the way is a really heavy job, and it takes strength that I just don't have. I don't have that strength.
I love that about you, that you're recognizing this, because you can tear down your own ego, or the Lord or circumstances can do it for you, and that's pretty painful too. So the fact that you recognize it and you need to do that and humble yourself, that'll probably save you a lot of pain, a lot of trouble.
Indeed, indeed. And the Lord, he if He's going to cut you, He cuts like a surgeon. It's for your good. And so that's how I came up with it. And a friend of mine at some point gave me an affirming verse, and we used it. Isaiah 41:15, and just to kind of let me know, it's like, yeah, dude, you're on the right track with this. It's I will make you a threshing sledge, new and sharp with many teeth, and I will use you to crush the hills and pulverize the mountains and lead them to chafe. All right, okay.
I love that.
It's
That's
like,
awesome.
The Lord is us,
That's great. So, getting back to the film Gosnell, it kind of deviated a little bit, but what kind of response have you gotten from people who've actually seen the film? I haven't seen it yet, unfortunately. I would love to, and I will get around to it, but how has the film been received, and what kind of feedback have you gotten?
So far, it's all been positive.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's people were moved to tears. The only ones who seem to say that they don't want to see it aren't because they're pro-abortion. Many have said that they don't want to see it because they can't handle the subject matter, or they think that the movie is gory. And it's like, dude, there's no gore in the movie at all. It's PG-13. You're not going to see any disturbing images or anything like that.
Okay.
But some can't handle the subject matter. And
it is a sensitive topic, and a lot of people, they want to put their head in the sand and just kind of ignore it or not get into it.
Which is why abortion has gone as far as it has.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, if you guys can't handle seeing the movie, I don't understand how you think we're going to take this fight, to the culture to make this, to abolish it.
Do you have any idea what it might take to get Roe versus Wade back up to the Supreme Court and overturned? I mean, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the legal processes or what it would take to do that, to get another case argued before the Supreme Court. Do you have any idea how that might work?
Off the top of my head, I'd say it would go with the president, because the president is the chief law enforcement officer of the land. So it's going to start there for him to start making a move, to put pressure on the branches and say, look, abortion is against the law. All right? The law is that nobody shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. You guys are executing kids without due process. Done anything wrong. You know, and the fact is if you go to our Constitution, all men are created equal. We're created equal, not born equal. We're created equal. The thing that makes us equal is the marriage between the male seed and the female egg. And once that happens, you have rights. You know, so it's like the law is that you're not supposed to be executing these kids. Now, people say that it's the law of the land now, and I'm like, well, you know what? Bad laws can be changed. That's why we don't have slavery anymore. That's why people have the right to vote now. We can change laws that are bad. You know, so the thing is that I don't know if the president really wants to go down that road. I think he might want to. He seems like he's a fighter. Also takes culture too to have his back.
Yep.
You know, it's like we can't just assume that the president's going to do it, and then people are thinking maybe I don't know they're just going to take some convention states and all this sort of stuff. Like no, dude, it's against the law. Flat out, it's just against the law.
I think one of the problems is that we've, as a culture, dehumanized the unborn child. We call it a fetus or a blob of cells or whatever else, even though the science now is pretty clear, you know, that life starts at conception. But we have to change and rewrite the history and say, hey, this is a person. This is not just a clump of cells. This is not just, you know, a fetus. It's a baby, you know, and it's a life. And I think that now the science has become so clear that the facts do support that, and more people are waking up to that. So I think the tide is changing, it's shifting, and it's just a momentous wave that's coming, I think, that's finally going to drive it back up to the Supreme Court, God willing, and we can get rid of this. But it does have to start, I think, in people's hearts. You know, the average everyday person has to realize this and has to demand it, really. You're listening to Divine Intervention Radio. I'm your host, Daniel Fazina, and we're visiting with Alfonzo Rachel, and he is a martial artist, an actor, author, and a political commentator. And Zo, why don't you tell us about your book? It's called A Solid Right Cross, Biblical Boxing and Conservative Counterpunching Against Leftist Loons and Godless Goons. I love that subtitle, by the way. And the imagery on the front is awesome, too. It's got a picture of a cross and some boxing gloves, and down on the bottom it's got a whole bunch of liberal symbols, and they're all knocked out. But why did you write this book, and you know, what's it about, and what are you hoping to accomplish with it from people who read it?
I like the way my friend C.L. Bryant puts it. He says this book speaks to the fighting spirit of America, you know, for those who want to preserve it. And in reading it, I think that what people will see, like in the first maybe like 25 pages, is like, dude, you seem a little angry, you know, particularly at the Republican Party.
I did notice that.
And I'm like, well, the point that I was trying to drive home, when people read it, I think by the time they get to the end of the chapter, they'll understand it. Is that a lot of people, they don't want to identify as Republican anymore, and I don't think that's really. I get it. People say that we should do away with the parties and all that sort of stuff. It's like, I get it. I understand that. Now, what do you think? You think we should all just be Americans? Is that your goal? I say, sounds great. Yeah, let's all be Americans. But once again, Americans according to what? Everybody's got a different idea of what America is. And some are very polarizing ideas of what America is. And that's kind of why we need parties, you know, so we can have a team, you know, that something we know that we can rally around and be, you know, a part of, that kind of, you know, puts us into idea of what camp like we're in. I know people don't like to be categorized. Once again, that pride speaking, and that's why, and pride is one of the reasons why we're losing our republic. You know, but as a Republican, I'm disappointed with a lot of things. You know, I feel like, you know, with the shadow banning and with people not seeming to have my back and basically being kind of almost tossed in obscurity, I have many reasons to say that, you know what, the Republican Party can just go jump off a cliff. You know,
hey, Zo, just not to interrupt you real quick, but you mentioned that term shadow banning. I had never heard that before reading your book. For anyone who's not familiar with that, can you tell us briefly what that is?
Shadow banning is basically when the social media platforms and the search engines mask you out, where you can't reach your audience. And they've targeted people, particularly Christian conservatives. They came down really hard on me. So what basically, like on Facebook, my Facebook following had grown up to like 111,000.
Okay.
And they dropped it down to 108,000. And that was about 4 years ago, actually. About 4 years ago, they dropped it down, and it will not grow. I can't grow my audience. And when I do my posts, I can't reach my audience. People are like, sometimes people contact and say, hey, man, I haven't seen posts from you in like months. You know, where did you go? YouTube, same thing. YouTube, I have, they stopped me at like 72,000 subscribers about 4 years ago. It hasn't grown past that, maybe 72, 73,000. Twitter, 33,000 followers. That was about 4 years ago. It will not grow past that. I can barely reach my audience, and I can't grow a new one.
So if I subscribe to your YouTube channel and or follow you on Twitter, it won't register on your page that I did?
Exactly. It either won't register or like if you want my notifications, you won't get notified that I posted anything.
Huh.
And it's the method is out of sight, out of mind. Doesn't matter how much you like my work. If you don't really see it, you'll forget about it. That's their objective, make people forget about my work.
Have you taken this up with Twitter and Facebook and their, the corporate heads? And if so, what did they say, or what happened?
You get an email that says no reply. you basically get a robot response, or they just ignore you.
That's crazy.
And it's one of those things. People say, "Well, you should sue. You should sue." I'm like, "Sue for what? How can I sue them? I don't have like any sort of contract with them or anything like that. It's a free service, not a public utility. It's like it's their backyard and they can run it however they want to."
Wow.
I have no agreement with them that they have to provide me like some sort of service, a standard of service. They don't have to.
Is there anything in their terms of service? I don't know. Have you read that or had your lawyers look over it or anything? Maybe. It sounds like they're discriminating against you.
It's totally discrimination. But like I said, the bump is, if you don't like it, you go someplace else, and it's not like you paid us to provide you a service.
Interesting. Bit of a conundrum, I guess, huh?
Mm-hmm. And I've said this for years. I'm like, well, why don't we have our own? Conservatives like this, we always, tend to think, liberals are stupid. They're not these dumb liberals and all that sort of stuff. Like, no, actually, they're very smart. They've got a lot of conservatives like rats trapped in their social media maze. And I'm like, why haven't conservatives pulled together to create another search engine, another social media, and not necessarily make it the conservative search engine or anything, but no, it should be something for everybody. But at the same time, that has the appeal that draws more people, and at the same time won't stifle people.
Interesting. I wonder if Facebook started out that way, and then I don't know. As they grow, it seems like power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and they get bigger and bigger and more powerful, and they their agenda, they do what they want to do.
I would say, it's not power that corrupts, it's weakness. Because if power corrupted, absolute power corrupted, God would be corrupt.
Like moral weakness, you mean? Or character weakness?
Exactly. It's like, because even when a person has a lot of power, they succumb to the weakness of doing other people dirty. They succumb to the weakness of lording over people and abusing other people. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's really weakness that corrupted them. Interesting.
Wow. So what kind of response have you gotten from your book, A Solid Right Cross? How has it been received?
So far, the feedback has been really positive. People like taking serious subject matter, but at the same time, making it, humor works as really good salt. It almost has that salty sweet thing that people really like nowadays.
Yeah.
So people like the humor in it. They like the analogies in it. They like the profound perspective of it. It goes right to the core. I'm not trying to work with symptoms here. Let's get down to the core issue. So we're talking about sexual orientations, abortion, immigration, gun rights, taxes. We're talking about all these things that the left has a very perverse view on. And the way that we fix this, or at least get the perspective of what we're working with, because I don't think there's a clear enough perspective on what we're working with, because we're not using the filter of Christ. We're seeing it, when we look at it humanistically, we're not going to see the big picture. But if you look at it through Christ, you're going to see that, one, this is nothing new. I don't care if it's whether it's taxes, whether it's concerning your right to bear arms, whether it's immigration, whether it's homosexuality, transgenderism, abortion. It doesn't matter. None of this stuff is new. The God of the Bible has been warning us about this since the first pages of the Bible.
Wow.
And we need to understand this, and the Lord has the remedy for it. We're subject to the law of entry. This stuff is going to decay. But the thing we have to let people know is that despite that this whole thing is going to decay, we serve a God who has an incorruptible, imperishable kingdom. And we can live in that. We can have that. But we got to do it His way.
I love that. I was just going to ask you, a lot of times people can get so sidetracked, get involved in politics, and it's very easy to succumb to the negativity because there is a lot out there that's negative, and you get bombarded with it. You see it on Facebook and your Twitter feed and other stuff, and if you're not careful, you can focus on the negatives. It can really, at least for me, it could really bring me down, and I'm assuming that for a lot of other people it does too, and it incites a lot of division sometimes, name calling and all this. But if there's someone listening today who may be in that situation where they're just so discouraged by the political climate, maybe they're conservative, maybe they're a Democrat, but maybe God is not really a part of their paradigm yet. What would you want to say to them?
The Lord has been running this experiment. If I could say that, just saying this, out of school a little bit. We can't do it our own way. When people talk about vetting people to enter into the United States and all that sort of stuff, there's usually got to be a vetting process. Well, the Lord's been vetting us for over like 2,000 years. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you're feeling discouraged and all that sort of stuff, trying to do it your way to find this peace or trying to find this clarity, it's chasing the wind. You're just chasing the wind. Take that to the Lord. Take it to Him, and He can set your mind straight. We're still going to have problems. We're still going to have issues, but wouldn't it at least be nice to be able to, traverse these waters with clear-mindedness, a clear heart, a guide, a compass. That's all the things that the Lord is to help us bear this weather.
Keen advice. I really appreciate it. And Zo, I appreciate you taking the time out. We could talk with you all day about this kind of stuff, but unfortunately we are out of time. But I want to thank you again for taking the time out on Divine Intervention Radio to share your testimony and about all the great things you're doing, and keep up the great work, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Well, friend, that about does it for another exciting episode of Divine Intervention Radio. Be sure to check out Zo on bronzeserpentmedia.com, and you can check me out on Divine Intervention Radio on divineinterventionradio.com. See you next time. Take care and God bless.
You've been listening to Divine Intervention with your host, Daniel Fazina. You can email Daniel at divineintervention@mail.com. That's divineintervention@mail.com. All programs of Divine Intervention are available online at divineinterventionradio.com. That's divineinterventionradio.com. Join us next time here on Divine Intervention.
I believe in miracles.
Hi, it's Kevin McCullough. You may know me from Talk Radio or from Fox News Channel. But I want to talk to you about something that you may not have ever considered before. The potential that you could get free energy. Now, I know it seems unbelievable, and you may have heard the expression, there's no such thing as a free lunch. But in the world of energy, it is possible to have your monthly electrical and natural gas bills eliminated. That's one of the benefits of the program with Ambit Energy. My good friend, the energy consultant Daniel Fazina, has talked about this on radio with me. But today, we're interested in helping you find out more. So if you're looking for information on how it works, try this URL, freepowernow.com. That's freepowernow.com. And if you're ready now to get free energy, grab your utility bill and dial 205-55-AMBIT. That's 205-55-AMBIT or freepowernow.com.
Divine Intervention welcomes the support of Zo Associates, Certified Public Accountants. Zo Associates, Certified Public Accountants is a family-owned and operated Christian business serving their clients with quality accounting services for over 40 years, offering full-service accounting for any type of business, large or small, in any state of the union. Zo Associates, Certified Public Accountants, 12 Oak Street, No. 5, West Hampton Beach, New York, 11978. Phone 631-288-3334. That's 631-288-3334.